learning how to make things from scratch because I want to know what goes into things, and I just always feel like if they can make it for the grocery store, I can figure it out, unless it's heavily processed like a Cheeto. Alright, hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin and I run the blog called Mrs. Midwest. As I always say, if this is your first time visiting my channel, I want to give you a very warm welcome. And to all my returning subscribers and viewers, thank you for coming back and for your continual support. You know how much it means to me. I never want to stop saying thank you because I would not be where I am without all of you. So thank you. And let's dive in to today's topic, which is all about how I live traditionally. Now, if you're familiar with my channel, you know that we have discussed traditionalism in the past. My tips for young women. I talk about it on my blog and so many other places. But today I really wanted to define 5 key areas and ways that I live traditionally in our modern world. And I'm not here to change your mind. I'm just here to share my experience and create a space for people who share my beliefs. Traditional living is very uncommon in our modern, progressive Western society. Now, it may be different if you are from a different part of the world. Hello, thank you for joining. But here in the West, progressive society, especially for young people, is much more accepted, celebrated, and promoted. And so when you see a younger person like myself, I'm only 24 years old, living traditionally, it can be a little alarming to people, or it can be kind of surprising. So what is traditional living? Well, it is basically the opposite of progressive modern society. It's a way of living that harkens back to the way your ancestors lived, with your tradition, your culture, the way you spend your money, what you eat, how you dress yourself. It's a worldview and it's a pattern of living based on the traditions of our past. Now, honestly, it can be kind of difficult to completely define traditional living because there's so many different parts of it. So today I just wanted to share the 5 ways that I practice traditional living in our modern world, starting with the first area, which is about embracing faith. And for me, that is embracing my religion as a Protestant Christian, declaring Jesus Christ is Lord. I believe in the death and resurrection. That is my religion. His life, his works, his death, and his resurrection inform my life. The Bible forms my life. So what does that mean? Why is that traditional? Repentance, all of that. But traditionalism is related to religion and faith because it is so anti what our modern world teaches. We have a heavy indoctrination going on that people who believe in something are stupid, that they are silly, those crazy evangelical Christians. But I know that so many of you beautiful people on this channel are religious, even if you're not Christian. So many of us still practice religion in our modern world. And the reason I love traditional living is because it embraces people who are religious and it allows space for that. Traditionalism allows you to live out your faith, your beliefs, and conform your worldview to that. It doesn't cause me to change the Bible or the narrative to fit a different worldview. Rather, I can live my life by the Bible and my worldview follows after. Because Christianity places so much of a focus on morality and the longevity of life instead of objects that you can accumulate, wealth, power, fame. And because of that, Christianity really does fit traditionalism so well because it's about going back in time to when before, materialism really took over and to a time before entertainment just grabbed us all by the throat. So honestly, I do believe you can live more traditionally without being religious. But for me and my life experience, it just goes hand in hand. So that does kind of bring us to the second part, which is all about rejecting consumerism. So as a traditional person, I'm still growing in this area, but you guys know that I love to be frugal. I love to thrift. And it's not necessarily always because we can't afford new things. It's rather because I want to always focus on being a good steward of the world, being frugal and working towards a lifestyle that doesn't contain that crazy just grabbing on to objects. Why is this traditional? Well, obviously in the past, people created what they needed. They wore the same clothes, they mended things, they fixed things, and they created their life around their skills. That's something that if you follow me on Instagram, you know I'm trying to do, is to get better at mending things. And the funny thing is just learning skills, like learning how to mend things, learning how to make do. You know, the old concept of making do is traditional, but it's also frugal and it's anti-consumerism. Building things, mending things, you know, using your hobbies to create skills. I think skill building and hobbies are so important because they remind us of our capabilities and as people, our talents, what we can do, and also how we can build and do so much more than we think we could. Obviously, there are times in your home repairs, especially when you should call the plumber or the electrician, but so many things we can do ourselves. We just have to try. And I honestly think in our modern world, we have even less excuses than the past because we have YouTube videos to watch. We have blogs. We have so much instruction and tutorials on how to build and fix. And that can really release us from consumerism and instead building your life around your relationships, your morality, growing as a person, building skills, building hobbies, those things that you can take with you if you lost all of your material goods. And that's why traditional living is so great, because it brings us back, almost like snaps us back to reality, to remember that luxury goods are so awesome. It's fun to experience that stuff. But then there's this deeper side of life of things that will actually make you happier. And a lot of that has to do with not finding your value in what you buy and those quick hits of dopamine to just make you happy, and instead embracing, you know, relationships and family and your own personal growth and your personal faith and religion to grow your heart and your mind, and so that you'll be happy no matter what circumstances you're in. So when I reject consumerism, it's so much more than just, oh, building hobbies and fixing things. It's also just this general mindset of, you know, living in relationships, blessing others, and working on myself. And that all goes together. So that kind of brings us to the third part, which I've harped upon so many times on my channel, but it's all about embracing femininity, accepting your femininity in the context of what traditional femininity is. And I know we are all on a spectrum from feminine to masculine, and I'm not pretending that all women are way over here. But I do think the more we can kind of embrace femininity, the more you can live traditionally. And obviously I do this in my life in physical ways, you know, by trying to look more feminine. I do this with my hobbies and skills that beautify, create, bless. And then also I am a homemaker. I am a housewife, and I plan on being a stay-at-home mom. And that is a traditional feminine role, okay? I do think you can be feminine and be that career girl, boss babe. We have so many of you on this channel, and I love you all. But I also think it's very traditionally feminine to fit that homemaker, even part-time homemaker, you know, lifestyle, because it's about bringing that life back home. And I think when we embrace traditional femininity, it can have a really profound impact on our personalities and our relationships. And as I also always say, femininity is not the same as girliness, okay? When you're gonna be a grown feminine woman, it's not just about like pink bows and I'm so cute, I'm a little bunny rabbit, you know? It's about being confident and elegant and grown up, you know, a strong feminine woman that can handle difficult times, one that has fortitude and the strength to nurture other people no matter what she's going through. You know, that is no small task. It's funny because you'd think, oh, if you're gonna be more feminine, you're going to be more crazy emotional. You're going to be more like that. No, it's about being very secure in yourself and growing into that maturity. And that relates to traditionalism because it really fills that role in society that, you know, balances out masculinity. And of course, with traditional feminine roles as well, we have mother, grandmother, wife, nurturing kind of roles. And those are so important. A lot of people talk about emotional labor, and that is true. A lot of women are the caretakers of their aging parents. They care for children, they care for their nieces and nephews, they care for their friends. That is a very traditionally feminine role. And the thing I like about traditionalism is instead of whining and crying about that being something we do as women. It honors that and it celebrates the fact that women do fill those roles in society. Okay, the next part is going to be a little bit shorter, but it's about food. It's about food, and this might sound weird, but food is honestly a huge part of our lives. Many people have 3 meals a day. A lot of us work so we can afford food. We need food to survive. And I feel like, as I always say, our modern world has rejected a lot of rituals and a lot of patterns with food, as well as even types of food. So as I live out traditionalism in my life, that's led me towards a more traditional diet related to what my ancestors used to eat, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, etc., etc. Foods related to farming, dairy, meats, animal products. I eat an animal-based diet because that is traditional to my ancestors, and it also has just blessed my health so much. But more than that, when we live more traditionally in the area of food, for me that has meant having more ritual around food, not just like eating a burrito in the car on the way to somewhere, but sitting down, praying before I eat. As you'll see, a lot of this traditionalism stuff combines a lot of the areas I'm talking about, but I take my Christianity and I apply it to food, and I see what the Bible has to say about food. It's for my health, and it's a time when I can commune with other people. As I've embraced traditionalism with food, it's caused me to go down so many different paths of learning how to make things from scratch, because I want to know what goes into things, and I just always feel like if they can make it for the grocery store, I can figure it out, unless it's heavily processed like a Cheeto. And so I make my own bread often. I don't always do it, but I make my own bread, I make my own bagels. If I want crackers, I'll make my crackers. And I've just begun to discover and learn what goes into that food, and also tried to step away from processed food, because that's not traditional, I wouldn't say. And so stepping away from processed foods and into that more ancestral diet, and away from that lifestyle where it's just about speedily eating something on the way to go somewhere else, making it an experience. You guys know, if you follow me on Instagram, I like to make tablescapes, and I like to put a candle out for dinner and sit down with my husband for breakfast and linger over coffee. And when we do go out to eat, it's more rare, maybe only on date night or every other week. It's more special to us. So traditionalism with food, is going to mean different things. Even the rituals around food are really heritage and culture based. So as you embrace traditionalism, if you want to do what I did, it's just looking back to, how did my grandparents do things? How did their grandparents do things? And what allows more ritual around, the special parts of life? And I do believe that food is something that just unites people. It builds relationships. It's really important. But I want to finish this video with the 5th part, which is all about a more traditional pattern of life. And what do I mean by that? Well, so I followed that more traditional pattern of life. Getting married at 22, becoming a homemaker at 22, we want to have kids younger. I know this is not always an option, because so many people discover this stuff after they've already lived a crazy life, or a lot of things have happened. And so many of you too are pursuing education, and you can't live traditionally. And I don't think it's necessarily wrong or immoral to live the life that God is leading you down. And I can't say what that is, but I do know for me that living traditionally meant that pattern of life where I became a wife young and a homemaker and hopefully a mom someday. So I definitely do believe more in marrying the right person than marrying at the right age. But I do think that getting married in your 20s especially is a really great time for a lot of women. And it's that slow living lifestyle. It's not a lifestyle that's centered around jet setting and luxury or career. It's a life that's centered around family, and it's a slower pace as well. But it's a slow life in a beautiful way, because honestly, to me, it's less stressful. I did work for about 6 months in a 9-to-5 job, and it was really difficult, and busy and stressful, and I wasn't able to keep up with my home, and I just wanted to be home. And so working part-time and then eventually being a full-on homemaker just slowed everything down in my life, and it just brought everything from this fever pitch to just a much quieter and slower way of life. And so I think everyone has a different path and different lifestyle, but part of the way I live traditionally is by doing that slow lifestyle. I also think if you do have a career, if you do have that jet-setting lifestyle, you can be more traditional in your downtime, in your off time. You know, how do you spend your time? Do you do it with like entertainment, like I was talking about, you know, passive entertainment? Or are you working on hobbies and personal development? Are you working on how to bless your neighbor or be more involved in your church? You know, you can incorporate slow living into your life almost no matter what you do. But most people can cut back in some way. Most people can slow down in some way. And traditional living is, of course, very slow. Our ancestors did not jet set around the world to Paris. No, their lifestyle was about the seasons, the harvest time, preparing for winter. And I think even living in the north makes this easier for me because it's winter now, and you know, I see the seasons so clearly and it affects my life. So yes, I try to live more traditionally by living slower, cutting out the busyness, cutting out the stress, and just breathing in nature, reveling in my relationships, and allowing those relationships and intangible things to inform my happiness and peace. So that's it for today. That's how I live more traditionally. I hope that that was inspiring or informing. Again, you don't have to be like me. I just want to share my experience. So thank you so much for watching. If you want to share your experiences with traditional living, or maybe how you live it out, to inspire others to fill in the gaps that I missed, I would love that. Leave a comment below. If you're interested in more of this kind of content, I have a couple videos about traditional living on my channel, and I also have some blog posts about it, so feel free to check out my written blog. But in total, I hope you have a wonderfully blessed and traditional week, my beautiful sisters and feminine family.